Imagine discovering a ship, drifting alone in the middle of the Atlantic. Its cargo still aboard, food still in the cabin, but every single person on board completely gone.
There were no bodies, no survivors, no clear sign of a struggle, and the ship itself was still capable of sailing. The ship was called the Mary Celeste, and what happened to the 10 people aboard remains one of the sea's most enduring mysteries. But the Mary Celeste did not begin its story as a mystery. It began as an ordinary merchant ship. The vessel was built in Nova Scotia in 1861 and was originally named the Amazon. Over the years, the ship suffered accidents and changes of ownership before eventually receiving the name that would make it famous. Mary Celeste.
In 1872, command belonged to Captain Benjamin Briggs, an experienced American sea captain from Massachusetts.
For this voyage, Briggs was not traveling alone. His wife Sarah and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia were coming with him. 7 experienced crewmen would complete the ship's company. On November 7, 1872, the Mary Celeste left New York Harbor. Its destination was Genoa, Italy, across the Atlantic and Mediterranean. Below deck was a valuable cargo, 701 barrels of industrial alcohol. The ship also carried enough food and water to support the people aboard for months.
Nothing about the voyage suggested that the Mary Celeste would become one of history's greatest maritime mysteries.
But the Atlantic was not going to make the journey easy.
The Mary Celeste encountered rough weather during its journey toward the Azores.
For the crew, every storm meant another test of the ship and of the captain. Yet the ship continued westward toward the Azores. On November 25, the Mary Celeste's log recorded its final known position. The ship was near the Azores, within sight of Santa Maria Island. Then the written record of the voyage effectively stops. Nine days later, another vessel was sailing through the Atlantic. It was the Dei Gracia, commanded by Captain David Morehouse. On December 5, the crew noticed something strange on the horizon.
A ship was moving strangely through the water.
It was the Mary Celeste. At first, the crew of the Dei Gracia could not understand why nobody appeared to be responding.
Ahoy! Anyone there?
Captain Morehouse moved closer. A boarding party crossed onto the Mary Celeste. and what they found was almost impossible to believe. There was no captain. No crew. And no Sarah Briggs or little Sophia. 10 people had vanished. But the Mary Celeste was not a wreck.
It was still afloat and capable of being sailed.
Much of its cargo remained intact. And food and water supplies remained aboard.
So why would an experienced captain abandon a functioning ship in the middle of the Atlantic?
There was one enormous clue. The ship's only lifeboat was gone. Whatever happened, the people aboard had apparently left the Mary Celeste themselves.
But abandoning a large sailing vessel for a tiny lifeboat in the open Atlantic was an extremely dangerous decision.
Another clue was found below deck. One of the ship's pumps had been disassembled. There was also water in the lower part of the ship. But the amount of water was not enough to explain a sinking ship. And that contradiction became central to the mystery. Then investigators examined the alcohol cargo. Nine barrels were found empty. But there was no evidence that the crew had simply drunk the alcohol. And later investigation suggested that the 9 empty barrels were made from a more porous type of wood and may have leaked. With the crew missing, almost any explanation seemed possible. To explain the mystery, pirates were suggested.
Mutiny was suggested.
Some even imagined sea monsters and other extraordinary explanations.
But British authorities in Gibraltar investigated the case carefully. The investigation lasted for months.
Despite suspicions, investigators found no convincing evidence that the crew had been murdered.
The case remained without a definitive explanation. Then something happened that transformed a strange maritime disappearance into a worldwide legend.
Writers began adding details that were never established by the evidence. In 1884, Arthur Conan Doyle published a fictional story inspired by the mystery. His fictional account helped push the Mary Celeste mystery even deeper into popular culture.
But modern researchers have proposed a much less supernatural possibility. One reconstruction suggests Captain Briggs may have feared that the ship was taking on dangerous amounts of water and that the pump problem prevented him from confidently judging the situation.
The ship had also endured rough weather, and the captain was navigating near the Azores. Modern analysis suggests the Mary Celeste could have continued drifting hundreds of miles without its crew.
That means the abandoned ship itself was never the impossible part. The real mystery is what happened in the moment before everyone left.
Did Captain Briggs believe the ship was about to sink?
Did he order everyone into the lifeboat as a temporary precaution? And if that happened, why did nobody ever make it back? This is where the evidence ends. No confirmed survivor ever returned to explain what happened. No definitive the missing boat was identified that solved the case. And no theory has been proven beyond doubt.
We know 10 people sailed aboard the Mary Celeste.
We know the ship was found without them. We know its cargo was largely intact. We know its lifeboat was missing. And we know the crew's ultimate fate was never established.
Perhaps the Mary Celeste was never haunted. Perhaps there was no monster, no pirate attack, and no impossible supernatural event. Perhaps the answer was hidden in a chain of ordinary dangers: bad weather, uncertainty, navigation problems, water, and one desperate decision.
A decision that may have saved them from a sinking ship, or may have placed them in even greater danger. More than 150 years later, the Mary Celeste still sails through history, not because we know what happened, but because we don't.
And sometimes, the greatest mysteries in history are the ones that refuse to give us an answer. Subscribe to History Hub for more untold stories from history.